transnational corporation, Transcorp, of course, has acquired a 60% stake in the Abuja Electricity Distribution Company, AEDC, one of Nigeria's 11 electricity distribution companies. That's the DISCOs, in a strategic move that strengthens the company's position within the country's power sector. Also, Transcorp, of course, releasing some very impressive half-year results for the first half of 2023. We are so happy to have joining us President and Group CEO of the Transcorp Group, Owen Omogiafo. Thank you so much for joining us. Good morning to you. It's a pleasure to see you again.
Thank you very much, Rotus. It's a pleasure to be here.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
So your results. Let's start with that. Markets liked it. Talk to us about the key triggers in there.
It's been an interesting year for all of us.
Yeah.
Actually, interesting times for the entire world, with the persistent Russia-Ukraine war, which is having ripple effect across the world. Perhaps I would dare say in a manner that no one had assumed would happen. And we've seen some changes in our own country as well. And like I was commenting, typically you talk about operating within challenging economic environment, but this year has been quite pronounced. And never as a CEO have one been so grateful of having a strategy that is forward-looking, a strategy that has resilience built into it, a strategy that has sustainability built into it, as the one we have in Transcorp Group. And basically, that is what you're saying. Is why you see that despite the challenges that have happened in the operating environment, which has led to certain results being declared by some companies, you see that Transcorp Group has come out strong. You've seen that our revenue has increased top line over 30%. Our operating profits, driven by the strong discipline we have on operational efficiency, has gone up by about has improved by about 40%. Profit before tax also in the high 30s. In a half year where people are reporting another side of the result. But when you look at it in Q1 we had some report where we had taken a hit because we had addressed some of our FX exposures in Q1 at the time. And today it now turns out that that was a very prudent thing to do in line with how we operate within Transcorp Group. Let's take a look at the sectors in which we invest in. Our hospitality sector. In 2020, COVID-19 came, ravaged the world.
Yes, indeed.
Ravaged the world, with hospitality sector in particular bearing the brunt. But at Transcorp, we continue to maintain that our philosophy of tough times won't last, but tough people indeed do, and driven by our investment principle of Afro-capitalism, which our group chairman, Mr. Tony Olumelu, CFR, is the proponent of. And we understand that as patient investors, we're going to ride through the tough times. So look at hospitality. Like I said, 2020 occupancy down to about 5%. Never ever heard of.
Wow.
Our fantastic 670-room hotel looking like a ghost town. But we stayed in touch with our clients. We maintained strong contact with our stakeholders. We stayed connected with our employees. We continued to manage our different stakeholder groupings. And whilst others were we used the time properly. We were innovating.
Yeah.
We were thinking of moving forward. And that's why you see, come July 2021, we launched Aura by Transcorp Hotels, which is the product I spoke to you about in Abidjan.
Yes.
And you're seeing what's happening in that space. As the world recovered from the COVID-19 pandemic, because of the things we had done, we were poised to take advantage of all of those seeds that we had sown in there. And that's why you see, when you look at our hospitality result, we've had consistent growth. In 2021, we posted impressive revenue and a modest profit recovery. 2022, we pushed on that. And you saw we ended 2022 with average occupancy of about 79%.
Wow, from 5.
And had a revenue of 34 billion. Our half year, we've continued to push and continue to build on that. And you see, despite with the challenges that you see in the sector of course, the inflation has been rising inflation, the changes in the monetary policy that has affected interest rate, you see that the business has still stayed strong. Our half-year occupancy for our hospitality business stood at 77%. And this is despite the world having recovered from the COVID-19 pandemic and people are now free to travel. What does it show? That when you have a resilient strategy and you stick with it, you follow that discipline, that you will continue to move on. And of course, we can't talk about Transcorp without talking about power.
Of course.
Transcorp has an installed generation capacity of nearly 2,000 megawatts. And in the first half of the year, we focused greatly on that, on improving our mechanical available capacity. And we took our capacity about 800, 900 megawatts. There were still some challenges with gas. There were still some challenges with transmission. But notwithstanding that, we saw a great improvement in our power business, right? Looking at the end of the year, with going by the strategy we're working with now, by year end, we would have about 1,200 megawatts of available capacity. And with gas issues getting the focus that is getting now, I believe right now that today the ministerial inauguration is going on, and we do have a Minister of State for gas who would focus on it, noting that Nigeria, about 79% of our power in Nigeria is thermal, meaning gas-fired.
Right.
So when you have these teething issues resolved, we will, of course, get more value and will continue to grow as Transcorp and, of course, the nation.
Fantastic. It's very resilient stuff. But so the power sector, thanks for touching on that. I mean, so despite the challenges, you still see a lot of promise in power. I mean, with the liquidity issues with discos, metering and all these other things, do you still see promise there? That's why you've invested. As far as this ADC takeover is concerned. Or majority stake, not takeover.
No, let me put some context around that.
Yeah.
Transcorp is part of a consortium that has acquired the stake in ADC. So it's not as if Transcorp acquired 60%.
Got you.
So it's a Transcorp-led consortium that has acquired 60%. And the question really about is, how will we be able to get a consortium together? Because what is clear is Nigeria remains the giant of Africa.
Yep.
Nigeria is on the path for recovery. We literally have no choice but to recover. And what is going to drive the sustainable industries, the industries that will help us catalyze and sustain the recovery? Power. There's no business, there's no sector today that can operate without power. In 2013, when the initial privatization of the sector happened, Transcorp and others went inside. If you recall the narrative then, the narrative was around, we are not generating enough power to meet our needs. So as the Transcorp group then, we say, okay, looking at the entire value chain, since we are patient investors, because you need to be patient in the power sector.
Nigerians need that lesson when it comes to investing.
When it comes to investing, you're a patient investor, right? And to be a patient investor, there's a certain pocket that you need, certain reputation, credibility that you require to be able to be there. And then we came in there. And you see, in 10 years, we have done well as a group in the generating space. But as we moved on, we saw that the problem, the power sector, was shifting. It was now not just about generation, but how do you get that power to the last mile, to the end user? Because what's really the point of saying, oh, look, I can generate, let's say, 600, 700 megawatts of power, but there are issues down the end of the value chain that makes it impossible for that whole 700 megawatts to get to the end user. And that's what led us and the other investors that we formed this consortium with to say, let's look at the distribution company. Let's see how we take what has been built by the generating companies to ensure that it gets down there. So indeed, that is what has led to the Transcorp-led consortium that has done that acquisition in ADC. And look, we are confident that we can fix it. Very, very confident. You're going to look at it. What are people looking for?
We want lights.
Reliable what?
Power.
That's what we are looking for. Today, with the rising cost of petrol, diesel, people are finding out that we can't afford to be running our generators. We can't use our generators to sustain the business. Please give us more power, more lights, as you have called it. And that's where we are coming in here, to leverage upon the discipline, the reputation, the competence that we have as turnaround gurus. We've done it. I'm not trying to sound like I'm boasting or anything. We did turn around Transcorp Power Limited, Ughelli. We turned around Transcorp Hotels, Transcorp Hilton, Abuja. And we're right now working on turning around Transafan Power as well. So working with the other investors, we will look at how to turn around Abuja Electricity Disco so that it's able to serve the area, the catchment area that it covers. And perhaps with doing such, you would also see that industrialization, urbanization will grow. Because really it would be like way back when the US was expanding and co, those days in the history, you'll find that towns were built around water. Where there was water, you see that settlements would happen.
Yeah.
So in our own case, where you find that power matter is being resolved, where you can be confident of say, okay, if I'm in this area, 23 hours of power, 24 hours of power, 20 hours of power, you will now see how there will be a natural migration. So keep watching this space as Transcorp and the other investors in AEDC will turn it around.
Fantastic. A very, very optimistic take from you. I quickly have to touch on hospitalities again, on tourism. Fuel subsidies have been removed, so domestic disposable income is squeezed a little bit. Then, of course, you've got, in fact, well, I shouldn't say a little bit, actually a bit much. And then FX, the rates moving. What do you think, what kind of impact do you think that will have on domestic tourism? Staycations, as you call it in Abidjan.
Staycations. Again, we have data to help us here. Where there were movement challenges, people looked inwards. Now we're back here. Yes, today's movement challenge is not triggered by a pandemic. It's not triggered by borders being closed. It's triggered by it's expensive to travel.
Right.
It's triggered by my disposable income has shrunk. However, because as a human being, you must relax, you must recuperate, you must restart yourself. We strongly believe that we will see an increase in our domestic tourism. I should state, though, that as of course, with the increase in international tickets, you also see that our domestic travel, the tickets are getting more expensive as well. But that said, there's adequate business around in the various regions. And you see that as for us in Transcorp, as we've continued to redefine our hospitality standards, we look at new ways to delight our guests, to give them value. And what that has meant that you see more people being pulled into the hotel. You see, of course, let's say mommy or daddy is going for a meeting or something. We're like, oh, you know what? This Transcorp Hilton, whilst they are strong on the business side, they also have a lot to do on the leisure side, from the gym, the spa, the hexagon pool, right? Have you been in that pool?
I have. It's massive,
You see our arts and craft village. You have the tennis court, the squash court, badminton. In fact, there's so much to do in that place. We'll see that people are going to move and continue to migrate towards looking for what is local. How do I stay local and still achieve that desire of I've gone on vacation, I have rested, I have bonded with my family, I have refreshed myself, I am ready to hit the ground running. So for us, we believe that domestic tourism is going to go very strongly, indeed. And as we work on building out Nigeria and dealing with some of the issues that might prevent people from coming into Nigeria today, there will be a lot more interest in people coming. And we are poised to take advantage of that. In Abuja, we are expanding our conference capacity. Right now, we're building a 5,000-person capacity event center at the Transcorp Hilton Abuja, which should be ready in Q1 of 2024. It's world-class, and we're really looking to see how we're going to use it to turn things around. For example, the conference I saw you at Abidjan, you saw the number of people that gathered.
So you want to bring that to Abuja?
I actually spoke with the organizers. I said, we need to have this in Nigeria. We need to have this in Abuja.
You're moving. You're making it happen.
And of course, as you know, we had this asset in Ikoyi, the Transcorp Hilton Ikoyi, a 5-star property. Sure, you agree with me that Lagos needs a Transcorp Hilton.
Of course.
Look at the standard that we have in Abuja, that we need to bring it to the commercial capital of Nigeria. So very happy to share that we've made good progress. We acquired more land around that area. And we're having some conversations now with financiers as well. And we're right now just revisiting the initial project economies and looking at the designs to make sure that we have the right project that we can put forward, and 50 years down the line, we'll still be here.
Hey, great stuff. It's always great talking power, hospitality sector. I wish we had more time, but we're out of time. President Group CEO, Transcorp, Owen Omogiafo, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much, Rotus. Always a pleasure.